here with Mr. Yannick Magee, nutrition to the stars of Irish MMA. Every couple of months we have a chat. We haven't actually talked in a while, so pleasure to have you back. How are you? How is work? Because you seem to be just collecting clientele week on week. Every time I talk to a fighter, they say, I've just signed with Yannick or I've been with Yannick a while. How's business? How's things?
Good, yeah. Things are going really, really well. Mr. Yannick Magee, it sounds like I'm in trouble. Usually you're going to court or something. Yeah, things are good. Things are really, really busy since the last time we talked. It's got, yourself. I left my full time job not November there, the November before, and it's just took off. Just crazy, crazy busy. Like I've got about knocking on the door 60 people on now at the minute. And then we have Nathan doing the Essentials program. I think he's up to 10. So there's about 70 people altogether. And there's more to come on now this week for the 6 week program. So we could be touching 80 plus people in the business now over the next week. So good. Can't complain. Yeah, it's going really well.
It
Same
is.
started from 9 to 80's going good. So yeah, happy enough.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of plans. That's a lot of fight weeks. Like, how structured do you have to be and how disciplined do you have to be in what you do? Because every person, you don't do a one size fits all. People have different nutrition requirements, maybe the allergen requirements, stuff like that. Talk to us. Like, there was one week I talked to you, I think you had to do 20 separate plans. Like, how time
Yeah.
consuming and hard is it? But also, the results then speak for themselves at the end of it.
Yeah, it's one of them things, you have to treat it like a proper job. You know what I mean? People think, oh, you work online, you're in Dubai, sitting by the fucking pool on a laptop, you're this, you know what I mean? I'm working some days there, I'm working 12-hour days. Some days I'm working Sundays, Saturdays, up in the morning, out to the office, and you could be spending the whole day in the office sorting things out. So you have to you have to treat it serious and you have to treat it like a professional. You can't be working with that many people and thinking that you're going to have all this. You do have free time, you do have flexibility, but you can't be thinking that you're going to piss about and go and live on the beach. And you know what I mean? Like and sit by the pool all day. It's not going to work. So yeah, it's busy, but if you have it structured properly and the way I have it set up, it's very well structured and it's kind of leveraged, so it makes it easier to manage. I have good systems in place and I have good. I use a really good platform for my coaching and everything as well, so it makes everything a lot easier to manage. But yeah, it can be full on. Like I'm never off my phone, never off my phone. Constantly texting people, constantly ringing people, constantly sending voice notes, and even if I go in a few days on a break, you're still constantly texting people. Like what I mean. You're always on the go. Like so, but it beats sitting in the building side. It beats like nothing wrong with that, but it beats you know my old job sitting in an office doing something that I fucking hated. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, because like that, like I said, there's not wrong with working those jobs. But when you love what you do, like I said, people think you're going to be sitting on the beach, you're going to make all this money, you're going to have all this free time, which is usually quite the opposite of the case. When you start up, usually you're making fuck all money. You do, and you don't have the time that you think. You're not sitting by the beach. You're probably putting in more hours, but you're doing it for yourself and your brand, and then going forward. But you talked about
Yeah,
bringing.
and you're doing something that you enjoy. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like some days it does. Sometimes you get pissed off, like, but you know you're doing something that you like. You're not going to work going, fuck's sake, I have to go and do this. You're going and you're doing something that you really enjoy doing. So it doesn't really bother me as much. Like I love it. Like so, I really can't complain. Couldn't think of a better job to be doing at the minute. Like,
Yeah, no, and you're the man for, and we've talked before about why you went into it, the way you used to cut weight and stuff like that, going into your Muay Thai fight, starving yourself, and obviously you've gone through and you're able to pass this knowledge on to other people. And you talked about Nathan actually coming on board. How did that come about? Because I just kind of seen it. Was it something Nathan was interested in? You have a good relationship with him, obviously, because you're in the same gym. And then
yeah,
kind of, does that give you a bit of relief as well? Or like if you're fully booked, let's say, or you so many fighters, will you then put them on to Nathan? Because it's essentially the same system, I would presume, coming from you.
it's not. It's similar, but not the same. So what happened was Nathan. Nathan was on with me previously as a client. So I had him as cuts and things like that. And then last year, he signed up for the year. So he come on, he goes, listen, I want this to be a big year for fighting. I want to really put the head down. I'm going to pay you a year up front. So he paid me for a year of coaching up front. We worked on loads of weight cuts. We worked on everything. So he knew everything that I was doing. He knew all my systems. He was educated. One of the big things I do is I don't just give a meal plan. I'll educate you and teach you how to do things as we're working together. So he had a year or more working under me, learning everything, basically like almost like an apprenticeship kind of thing, a working apprenticeship. But at that same time, he went and done a course on nutrition as well. I think it was either a year or 2 years he done a nutrition course. So throughout that time, he was doing that. He was working with me. He was learning my end of things. And then he had talked about going and starting to work for himself and trying to work, doing something similar. So we had a conversation and I said, how about you come and work under me as a team member? You can help me co-coach, you can do different things. So we came to the decision that he'd run the Essentials program. So basically the Essential program is for anybody that is maybe an amateur that wants help with their nutrition, but maybe just doesn't have the sponsorship back up. Maybe they don't have just enough money. Not that I'm fucking mad, extortionate, expensive, but just there's some people there that just generally can't afford it. So we were like, let's put a program together that's maybe just not as in depth. It's a bit more budget friendly and it's working with amateurs. And then Nathan can run that, and then I'll assist him with coaching that if he needs it. And then he's learning. Their amateurs are getting help, which is what they need, and it's improving what they're doing. He's learning through me as well, and then he's getting money out of it too. So it worked out really well. So yeah, he's been doing that now for a while, and he's pushing it really well, and it's going good. He's got a good group of people there. So yeah, so it's going good for him.
Yeah, no, and that's good that you can help him then as well, and that he took interest while you were coaching him. And I say getting money up front for a year was quite nice as well.
Yeah, there's a few. Funny enough, there's a few people that do it. There's a few people that just come on and just like, right, I want to pay up front for a year. Maybe their sponsorship. I've had a few people that were sponsors for like, let's do a couple of months, do the initial 90 days, and then see how the person's gone. And then if after the 90 days they want to stay with you, I'll pay for a year. So that's a nice wee bonus to get every once in a while if you can get that. Like, definitely. But it's nice as well to get the trust. Do you know what I mean? They're like, well, we know this works, so we're willing to invest for a year. Like that's, some people won't sign up to anything more than a couple of months. So if they're like, yeah, we'll sign up with you for a year, it just shows that they know that they're going to get the benefit back. So yeah, nice.
Yeah, which is
and the
fair.
Money's nice too.
It is nice getting the money, because we talked previously as well. There's in your line of business, and especially in PTs as well, there's a lot of spoofers that do this one plan fit all. So obviously,
yeah.
If someone wants to come on board, do the 90 days, that the work is there behind, you can stand behind your work. You've seen, like, you've got Dennis Frimpong this week, how that guy makes lightweight, only you and him know. So, like, your work speaks for itself. So once, I think it's good, obviously, if they do the 90-day, then pay up front, it is good. But you talked about the essentials for the amateurs. When you look back at when you were fighting and you see the amount of amateurs now, because there's a lot of amateurs that is with yourself, that I know off the top of my head. Like, how different is that to back in the day when you started? Like, just the evolution of the job you do within the sport, because it seems to be getting more prominent, and everybody at pro seems to have a nutritionist. Is it a must-have now compared to the information we had years ago?
I think so. I think it is starting. You're starting to see a lot more people wanting to work with a nutritionist. Like back in our day, there was nobody. You didn't have a clue what you were doing. Like if you got, like, everybody uses Sweet Sweat and stuff now. We got Albaline cream back in the day, and we thought this was revolutionary. Rub this cream on you and you could make weight. That was the height of what we could do. For helping you make weight. Your diet was basically eat as little as what you can. There was no talk of using a nutritionist at all, and now you have amateurs getting ready for their first fight, signing up with a nutritionist to get help for their very, very first ever MMA fight or Thai fight. So it's massively changed. It's insane. Like, it is insane. And it's great to see. So many people are seeing it as such such an important aspect of it, you know, and they're not just thinking about, I need to train hard, I need to go to the gym and do whatever. They're like, I need to train, I need to look after my sleep, I need to look after my recovery, I need to look after my diet, I need to look after all, you know, everything as a whole. And it's just going to improve. It's just going to improve everything. You know, the skill level is insane now compared to when we were fighting. But the commitment and the effort that people are putting into their fight careers is next level as well. You know, they're taking everything so serious now, and yeah, it's vastly different compared to what we were doing. Like my diet for fight week was ham and lettuce. Like that's not a word of a lie. Even 2 weeks out, ham and lettuce 3 times a day for 2 weeks. That was how I thought I could make weight. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now somebody's paying a nutritionist to come on for 12 weeks before their first amateur fight. So it's insane the contrast between the two of them.
So ham and lettuce for 2 weeks sounds absolutely miserable.
That's the best thing ever. Maybe a wee bit of salad cream or something if you were feeling you deserved it. Okay. Oh, mental what we were at. Stupid.
No, but like I said, everything evolves. The skill has evolved. Like I said, the commitment is one thing I've really noticed. You've got fighters that are working 40 hours a week. They're going to the gym in the morning. They're going to the gym in the evening. That's like you're training. They're training like pros essentially. But what's one of the things
Yeah.
I find with amateurs? I find some of the amateurs, unless you're just about to go pro, I think some of them sometimes are cutting too much weight. Like if you took on an amateur, would you advise? Obviously, it's up to them, but would you advise them to stay closer to their walk around weight, or would you like what do you think is the best? I think amateurs need to kind of stay cut a little bit, but stay kind of at their walk around weight and establish their game. Do you find a lot of them want to cut too much weight at
Yeah.
rather than wait until the end of their amateur career?
Yeah, I think a lot of them, you know, a lot of them do want to sort of treat it the same as what the pros are doing. Um, Whether they should or not, again, in my opinion, somebody shouldn't really be cutting crazy amounts of weight, and I'll always try and advise them against it. If they are doing it, I'll always suggest them to move up a weight class. If you know that's not, but then again, it's you know, there's many other people have to have a say in that. You know, it's managers, coaches, the whole lot, even the fighter. But for amateurs, I feel that they shouldn't be cutting a crazy amount of weight. You can still cut a safe enough amount of weight, and you know you can still cut weight and be safe, but they shouldn't be pushing the boundaries with it. But you do see a lot of amateurs are pushing the boundaries. Um, so yeah, like my advice is always trying to minimize it as much as you can. If you can get like a day before weighing 68% of your body weight, that's safe. You know, that's doable. Even at amateur, it's still relatively safe. You know, well, not relatively safe, it is safe. If everything's in order. So they can do it. But if they're pushing the boundaries, they have to sort of say, like, is it actually worth it? You know, am I an amateur that's doing it just for the sake of a bit of crack? Am I doing it just for, you know, because I enjoy it? Or am I doing it right? Am I going to try and make a career out of this? Is it like a high profile fight that's going to maybe help me to go towards a belt and then go towards pro? Things like that. Then, if it is that case, then maybe, you know, you should never push the boundaries. But if you're cutting a bit more for that and it's still relatively safe, then that's fine. But yeah, I think as a whole, amateurs shouldn't really be pushing the boundaries at all. Nobody should, but amateurs especially shouldn't really be cutting crazy amounts of weight. Definitely not. Like,
Yeah,
don't know
like
if that answers your question.
no, it does because I think, especially at amateur, your first four, I think first 5 to 6 fights, or depending on your timeline for pro, I think you should start kind of pushing down the weight then for what you want to fight at a pro for maybe your last 2, 3 fights. So you get the weight cut in line, you know exactly how your body's going to react rather than going, just say, from bantamweight to flyweight for your first pro, and your body might not
Yeah,
react different as well as it does, obviously, because you're cutting more and it might affect your performance then. But I think amateurs just not far off the walk around weight and just establish their game, because I think there's too much pressure on cutting the weight nowadays, like especially when you get to pro level, because there's so much at stake. You see, like some of the UFC fighters cut crazy weights.
there's a lot of emphasis on going lighter all the time. You know, you should always go to a lighter weight class, right? You're turning pro now. You've been fighting at lightweight. Now it's time to go to featherweight. You know, just because you're a pro. I don't think necessarily it always gives you an advantage. Lighter isn't always better. Like showing up, yes, still cut if you need to cut weight, but cut a sensible amount. See where you're at in your amateur career, see where you can cut to in a safe way, but you can still perform. See what weight class, if you can move between weight classes, see what weight class suits you best and where you perform really well at, and you're not massively outsized at, and then carry that into your pro career. So I think there's too much emphasis on going lighter all the time, just for the sake of going lighter. People think, oh, right, lighter is better. Cut more, be lighter. Fight a lighter weight class and come in heavier is better. It's not necessarily. If you're doing that at the expense of performance, you're doing that at the expense of your health. It shouldn't be the case. You should factor in, number one should be your performance. If you can perform, if you can cut weight and feel relatively sweet and perform really well, then that's fine. But if you're cutting weight and you're messing yourself up to get to that weight class, then it's obviously not for you. You don't have to just push to that just because you think, oh, I need to get to this lighter weight class. It's not the way it should be, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, because like that, you go down, your performance is, you could be drained more. You might feel more fatigued. You might not show off the best version of yourself. And then ultimately that might be, like Robert Whittaker, for example, used to be welterweight, performed much better at middleweight. Like,
yeah.
10 times.
It could go the other way as well. Like you could basically bust yourself in a weight cut, go out there and knock somebody out in the first minute, and that's a really good performance. Do you know what I mean? But just because you performed well in that instance doesn't mean that you might in the next one, or you know what I mean. So performance is weird. Like you can be near dead. Like there's Decky for example. Look at that performance. Really, really shit cut because of being sick, because of he had a chest infection, he had a foot infection. The weight cut was rough to the point that in my head I was like, fuck, maybe we'll call this, and then I was like, right, look, we'll take a break tonight, go to sleep, get a good night's rest, we'll try and get in the morning. And he was great in the morning, but like that was horrible. And then he showed up in the fight, but that could have easily went the other way, and he was putting himself at risk. He shouldn't really be taking that risk, even though he still performed well. So it's a weird one. Like you can still have a fucking rough weight cut and perform really well, but just because you do doesn't mean that you should. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, you shouldn't really be trying to kill yourself to make weight. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. And especially with Decky, like you said, he's just got a fucking heart of a champion that he's going to go in there. But if he had lost and looked shit, then everyone would have said, what did you go in there for? You should have never been in there. So it's double the glory. Like if you go and win, you're going to get the praise for going through that. If you lose, then people are going to go, you should never have done it. So it all depends on the fighter and what they want to do. But there was one thing I don't know if we've ever really touched on it. The likes of vegan, vegetarian diets, do you have much of that you have to deal with? And because I don't know science behind it, but people are saying if you're vegan and stuff that you might not be able to refuel or get the right amounts of protein. Is there any, like, what's the cons and the pros and cons of a vegan or a vegetarian diet, and can it affect performance? And is it something that you come in contact with regularly?
Not so much, not that regularly. I've had a few vegetarians. I've worked with maybe 2 vegans over the years. Like in terms of performance and in terms of getting enough protein and things like that, you certainly can if you build it correctly. People talk about vegan diets lacking in protein, or even a vegetarian diet maybe potentially, but if you're getting a varied amount, varied foods, if you're eating just the same thing all the time, you're going to run into the risk of deficiencies in terms of like vitamins, minerals, and even protein. But if you're eating a varied diet, if you're eating different sources of plant-based protein, that will make up enough that you need. Now you probably need to eat a lot more. You can supplement as well, but if you're doing the diet correctly, there's nothing wrong with it. People have this argument against vegan diets, so you're not going to get enough protein. But if you eat the right stuff and you eat different sources of plant-based protein, you're going to get enough protein. The argument is that plant-based sources of protein aren't complete proteins, so they don't have a full amino acid profile. I think the only exception is soy, but maybe soy and hemp. I'm not too sure. I think hemp maybe as well, but definitely soy. It has a full amino acid profile. So what they're saying is, if you don't eat animal products, you're not getting all your amino acids, which doesn't make up the full profile. But if you eat a variety of different sources, you're perfectly fine. In terms of fueling and performance, like a lot of the food's going to be plant based, a lot of the food's going to be carbohydrate based. So you can 100% fuel very, very well in a vegan diet and a vegetarian diet. The only issues that I see with them are, for me anyway, was when I was trying to structure out a fight week for a vegan, and it was very, very hard to keep their calories up and get the, and choose the right foods, and also to get like a low carb. If you're doing the low carb strategy, low fiber, it's very, very difficult with a vegan to do that with a load of plant based things, because mostly plant based, high fiber, high carb, or higher in carb, even sodium. So it's difficult structuring for a vegan. But everything else outside of the actual fight week, I find is fine. And just the fight week for a vegan was probably one of the most difficult fight weeks that I had to plan out. Just in terms of trying to pick the right foods that are going to match the strategies that you need to do to get the weight off. So, yeah, but anything outside of that, like if somebody knows how to structure their diet correctly, if they're vegan, then they should be perfectly fine. But again, a lot of people probably don't, and then that's where they run into issues. So,
yeah, no, because there's a lot of talk of the vegan or the vegetarian diet can't do it. I think Nate Diaz is a vegan himself. There's a couple. I think one of the world's strongest men is actually a vegan as well. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on it, and if you had come into it much. But there's obviously in the Republic we have the day of weigh-in. Have you dealt with many of them yourself, and how much differently do you structure that to the day before weigh-in?
Yeah. Well, sure, look, a lot of the guys I work with from over the border, so there's a lot of them fighting down there. So we're doing the day in, day off. Anybody that's doing jiu-jitsu competitions is going to be usually day off, and worse off than what the MMA guys are doing. Like the MMA guys have the longer period of time between, if you're fighting a cage legacy or something, you weigh in at maybe 9, 10 in the morning. You're not fighting 6 in the evening, maybe even later. If you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're weighing in, depending on the competition, but you could be weighing in an hour later and you're on the mats. If it's IBJJF, you're weighing in and you're in the bullpen and then you're on the mats. So depending on what way the setup is, you do have to approach the week differently. Day before, you have so much more time between the weigh-in and the time you compete to recover. So your strategies can be different. If it's same day, like you can't pull in carbohydrates as much because that's your fuel source, and you just don't have the time to put it in there. Depend on the lag time between weigh-in and the time you compete. If you have an hour, you don't really have much time. If you're straight in a match, you don't have time. If you have 6, 7, 8 hours, maybe you have a little bit more time, so you can potentially alter it a little bit. But generally, for same day weigh-in, you don't want to cut carbs. You can use potentially a water load, again, depending on the time frame. Water load, low carb, the water load, low fiber, low sodium, low food volume, potentially a little bit of dehydration. Up to 2% of your body weight, you should be fine, and you can kind of recover that. You shouldn't really have much of an impact on your performance. That's kind of a last ditch thing if you're going to start dehydrating somebody, but you don't want to dehydrate them too much. So the strategies are different, whereas the day before, you cut carbs, cut fiber, cut sodium, cut the food volume, water load, stick them in the bath in the sauna, things like that, cut water. You have all that time to put it back in. Just the same days. You just don't have the recovery time. So you have to approach it completely different. Well, not completely different, similar stuff, but just different. Depend on it's the time between the weigh-in and the time between the fight that makes the difference in your recovery. So it all boils down to that.
Yeah, so obviously when you see fighters fighting on the day of, they usually jump up maybe a couple of kilos to complete that, because I think I talked to Kieran Brady before a long time ago, and he said I think he went to flyweight, and he said he got knocked out, and because there wasn't the correct amount of time or something in between him trying to refuel, obviously all the fluid I think was gone around his head, and he said he can't remember anything from that. He couldn't remember anything from the fight on, which is something you don't want to do. You don't want to be dehydrating someone on the day of. And like this comes back, honestly, I think they should do away with it in the South. I think it hinders a lot of the promotions. I think they can't get the big amateur fighters that are just about to go pro, because why would you want to go back the day of when you're just about to go pro for a day in? But that's a whole nother talk for others that are involved in it.
There's a lot of people think that, you know, if you switch it to the same day away in, that it's going to maybe deter people from I don't even know if that's the right word, is it? Trying to put people off.
Yeah, it is. Deter is the word.
This is not what it means. Yeah, they're trying to put. I need to look up the dictionary here. It's going to put people off. Me trying to act all smart here. It's going to put people off cutting so much weight, which it does. You know, anybody I have that's like, oh, it's same day away in, they're automatically going, well, I'll fight at this weight instead of fighting at that lower weight, or I diet down to this. You know, they know, so it is a deterrent, but. There's a lot of people think that even pros should be moved towards same day. You know, it might put people off. So it's hard. It's hard to know. Like, I don't know if for a show it would work. You know, if you're the day of the fight and you have somebody misses weight, how do you get a replacement? You know what I mean? At least the day before you have a bit of time. So I don't know. Like what the best approach is, to be fair.
Yeah, see, I agree with the principles of it and kind of what we were talking about earlier. Get people to fight around their walk around with weight rather than do all this mad cutting. But like you said, you go to the IMAFs. I can't remember what fight it was. I do remember, but I won't say who it was. But he went up from lightweight to welterweight. Said, "Sure, they won't be cutting here." He got there. It was the Russians and the Ukraine, and they're in sweatsuits, like which is extremely dangerous. But he said he felt that even going into there. And the problem with the IMAFs is, depending on what age or what bracket you're in, you could be making that weigh in at 7 o'clock in the morning and fighting 2 hours later, which I agree with but the practicality of it at the minute with people cutting weight, it doesn't seem to be working. And I think there needs to be some sort of a solution with it. Okay, so we've talked obviously that you do amateur fighters, you do a lot of your work online, but we've seen obviously you went to Paris for John Mitchell. You've gone with Reese, so you've gone to the UFC, you've been behind the scenes of PFL. Cage Warriors obviously was another one that was on just a couple of weekends ago. What is it? Sorry,
I was just saying, yeah, no, you're right. Go.
Yeah. So what's it like going and doing that, the hands-on as well? Because a lot of people think it's glitz and glamour. And if anyone listened to my interview with Decky McAleenan, it's not. He said he was vomiting, diarrhea. You're batting a grown man, basically. It's not all glitz and glamour behind the scene. What is like doing it in person, like doing the last little bits? How hard is it?
Yeah, it's not. You know, I spoke to people that are like, oh yeah, I'd love to get into doing what you're doing, and they think it's all, you know, look, you get to work with fighters and you get to do this. It can be very, very stressful. There can be times when things maybe just don't go the way they're supposed to go, and that can be probably one of the most stressful fucking times of your life. You can see people in some fucked up positions. You can, you know, and like money after tax and somebody there. And I have two people on now in Bellator in June at the same time, and one likes to cut weight the night before, one likes to do it in the morning off. So that's going to be a 24-hour day. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to have to stay up. I'm going to have to go into the sauna, checking people. You're going to be running from room to room. It can be a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And, you know, as you say there with Decky and that, you know, it can be, it can be tough at times. The in-person stuff can be rough. Like, all being well, you know, things usually a lot of the time go really well. But when they don't go well, you know, that's where you have to sort of have a good head about you and know how to assess things and know how to change things and know, you know, what to do to make it as smooth and as comfortable for the person as you can. You can't just sort of wing it, you know. But a lot of the time, to be fair, it goes well. A lot of the time, you know, people aren't cutting crazy amounts, but when they are, or when something like what happened to Daki happens, that's where it's yeah, it's interesting. So it is. Picture this. Daki's told everybody anyway. Daki's sitting on the toilet, passing out, there's catch around his ankles, fucking diarrhea and vomiting into a thing as I'm trying to hold him up and put wet, cold wet towels over him to cool him down and bring him around. Like there's nothing, there's nothing glamorous about that. I mean, I said at that stage, I was like, I should have fucking should have maybe stayed in a different career, but it is what it is. But yeah, the in-person stuff like it can be stressful, but it can go really well as well. So it just depends on how the cup's going. Like, but it's yeah.
I like that. With you being at the UFC PFL, what are the behind the scenes like? The care for the fighters, like that might help you or aid you within the job you're doing. Do they have a lot more facility, supplies, stuff like that to aid you in helping that fighter make weight? I'm sure the UFC have whatever you need there, do they?
Yeah, see, to be fair, like the fundamentals are the same. You know, no matter if you're going and you're like maybe working Cage Warriors or Bellator or PFL, even the UFC. You know, your time is spent sitting around a hotel, sitting in a hotel room, maybe with the fighter, starting the cut. You know, you're sitting outside the bathroom. You're doing everything, no matter where the show is. You know, a lot of the time is unfortunately just spent sitting around a hotel room. It's not, again, it's not all glitz and glamour. The likes of the bigger organizations do tend to have, especially the UFC, so more so the UFC do tend to have a lot more support. You know, they have the UFC PI, they have people there from the UFC PI that are on site, they're on hand, you know, providing food for fight week, which is an absolute gift, especially when it's abroad. Providing all the essentials that you need, whether it's sweet sweat, whether it's sauna tents, sauna blankets, you know, everything is there. There's the support there. PFL did do it at one stage. I think John was in Berlin that time, and they had Paul Reed over helping coordinating all the weight cuts. They seem to have done away with that now. I don't know why. They had sauna tents. They do still have sauna tents at PFL for the cuts, but they haven't really got as much support there as what the UFC has or what maybe the PFL had before. So, yeah, the bigger organizations tend to do have a lot more there. The likes of Cage Warriors and stuff, Bellator maybe not so much, but definitely the UFC. What the UFC is doing is leading the way. You know, they're the UFC PI there and having people from there at the shows to provide the food, to provide support and things like that. It's very very helpful, especially when it's across the water somewhere. So yeah, it's brilliant for that.
That actually leads me on to a question I never thought of before. When, like you said, when you go abroad to different countries that might have different meats, and you know yourself, people's bodies react differently to different foods, and especially in a different country, they might have different meats, like they might use different things to process their food or whatever. Has that ever been an issue when you've gone abroad trying to find the right foods, make sure that it's the right thing that you need for the fight, or has there been any issues that have ever cropped up like that?
Not so much. Like generally, like I try and preempt it all. I try and go right. Okay, where are we going? Where are you staying? I look sure we're so lucky now to have the internet. I can go on and find out where the hotel is, find out if they have a bath, find out if they have a sauna nearby, find out what shops are nearby. I can even specifically say to them, look, go to this shop. I remember back with Daki fighting Cage Warriors over in England, actually printing off Google Maps and showing him where the shop was. Do you know what I mean? Like having the actual Google Maps where he knew exactly where to go to the shop, list of stuff to get from that shop. You can almost get to the extent sometimes of going onto the website and going, well, pick this, 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 and this, and there's your fight week food sorted. So usually it's not too bad. Logistically, sometimes it can be difficult because again, they're staying in a hotel. If somebody's staying in an Airbnb, it's a completely different story. You can just give them the list, fight week foods, go and you do your shopping and things are fine. I've somebody in Canada now doing the road for one. He is in a different part, staying in a hotel. So I'm getting sent menus. What do you think of this? And you're having to sort of work on the go and sort of use your knowledge, to say, right, this, and this is probably going to be your best option. So the likes of that, it can be handy enough to manage at times. If you're going somewhere really, like I think John fought in India, and we were like, right, we don't know what the conditions are going to be like. We don't know. We had no like prior information on where he was going, and like we didn't really want to take a chance on maybe local food and street food and stuff like that. So we were like, right, okay, let's see what we can bring with us. So I put a training together on like this is what you can pack, this is what you can take on a plane, and here's foods that are going to fit the strategies that we need, and you can take them with you. And funny enough, we end up like baby food was one that it's in a jar, it lasts, doesn't need to be kept refrigerated until it's open, and easy to pack, and it fitted like low sodium, low fiber. So we were like, funny enough, John, like baby food might be a good option here. And he's like, are you serious? And I goes, yeah, look, a load of wee jars of baby food. Just because he was going to India and we didn't know what we were up against. So he went and got a load of baby food, and I think he still likes baby food to this day. So he does that. So I think he's still like, yeah, fuck, that stuff's actually nice. So yeah, so you can work around it. There's always ways to work around it. If you know what you need to do, you can find a workaround. But having something like the USCPA there is massive. Like that's a huge help. Like, and if the bigger shows done that, Bellator, PFL, Cage Warriors, even if they'd done that, put that effort in, had somebody working for them, they even coordinate the food and fight week for fighters. Not so much maybe Cage Warriors and stuff. A lot of people only come the last day or two in it, but like PFL, maybe you're there 3 or 4 days before, something like that. It would make things so much easier on fighters. So it would make life so much handier.
Yeah, but like that also, what comes with that is you need the capital behind to be able to do something like that. And obviously UFC is the what people want to be, and people do complain about fighter pay. That's another discussion for another day. But they're putting PIs in different countries. You can literally go to that gym and just train in that gym for fight week. You're provided with food in the PIs, I believe, as well. You're provided with drinks, whatever. So
yeah,
it's something. Obviously, PFL, Bellator aren't at the level of UFC, and that's not saying anything bad about them. It's just facts. UFC is the pinnacle at the minute.
oh,
And then hopefully over time they'll get better. But you talked about, there's one question actually. You talked about a fighter wanted to at Bellator's, one wants to cut weight the night before and one wants to cut weight the morning of. Is that just a comfort thing with the fighter, or is there any benefits to the night before the morning of?
Yeah, so look, again, it's personal preference. My opinion of what I prefer is a little bit the night before, get within a nice sort of distance or a nice weight off your weight, and then do the rest in the morning. If you can be comfortable enough to go to bed, get a good night's sleep, you're giving the body a break. You're waking up in the morning, you're not as stressed out, and you go at it in the morning and finish it off. You're dehydrated for as little time as possible, but sometimes you have to just go with personal preference. So some fighters prefer it the night before. Some people are happy enough to follow that and do well at that. I think it's like almost like a peace of mind kind of thing. They're like, I know I've all this time. I'm not stressing in the morning, which if you have things done right, they shouldn't really be stressing. But it's almost like a peace of mind, right? I know I've a kilo or I'm half a kilo away. I stay up all night, I get it done, I recover, and I go to bed. They're happy enough to stuck it up for that last bit, just for a bit of peace of mind. And a lot of fighters struggle to sleep anyway the night before the weigh-ins. Whether it's they're dehydrated, their body's in a state of stress, it's hard to switch off, their mind's going, things like that. So for those people, just like, I'm going to be awake anyway, so I may as well just get it out of the way now. In my opinion, again, look, you don't want to do that maybe as much because you are dehydrated for a longer period of time. If you're not dehydrating so much, it shouldn't really be an issue. But if you are pushing it a little bit, your blood pressure's low, your heart rate's up, you don't want that to be extended. You want that to be short window, recover, that's it. Like rev the engine for a short bit rather than keeping the foot in the pedal and revving it for a long period of time. That's the way I look at it. But again, look, it's personal preference. And I for me, I just have to go with try and advise them as best as you can. but work with what's comfortable for them and what they feel, less stress doing, which is a big thing. So if one person's going to be like, yeah, we'll do it the night before, let's do it. Let's make it as comfortable as we can for you. And then the other person's going to want to do some the night before and the rest of the morning off. So just, I know preempting that one's going to be a late night. Like, it's going to be one of those. Again, that's another thing back to where we're talking about this glitz and glamour shit. You're sitting in a hotel room, you're going to bed at 12 o'clock and you're back up, or maybe you're going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're going to bed and you're up, right, you're getting their hydration drinks ready and you're going to bed at 2 and then you're back up at fucking 5 or 6. Do you know what I mean? So you're running on fumes yourself as well as trying to help them and cope with everything as well. So yeah, sometimes the in-person can be shit, to be fair. Like you prefer sitting in the office in a nice cozy office behind the laptop telling people what to do, so but it's all part and parcel of it. You have to just do it, and it's good experience as well. You get to see different things, and it's nice. It's nice to be on that side of it too, and not be in the sauna yourself or in the bath as well. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I can imagine. I sat through a wake up with Magee before, and he'd cut like 7 kilo overnight, Joe, and it was like he cut most of it the night before that. He only had to cut what, like 1.5 or something. But it was just the first night he seemed fine, but then the morning he went in, and then I think the scales was off by 0.4 as well. So it said it was 0.4 over, and he then you could see up until then he was in good spirits, and then when he seen, right, I thought this is it, an hour and a half in the sauna should get rid of this, and then you could just see in his face where he's like, I can't do this anymore. But then we got to the venue and he was 0.4 under, but like I just what?
It's the stress. That's another big thing, like about the in person. You're there, you're making sure it can go as comfortable as it can. You know what I mean? Yes, there will be times where it's stressful and things like Decky was stressful, but you have to keep a cool head there, and you have to, you can't go fuck and start panicking. You know what I mean? You have to go, right, listen, this is what we're going to do, and you have to be smart and wise in how you approach it, because the last thing you want to do is start freaking somebody out and stressing them out. You're there to make that as stress free as possible. So, like you're saying there, him getting stressed over the weight, that's gonna make the weight cut a lot harder. Do you know what I mean? If you can take that stress away, and even the numbers and the scales, you should know all them off to a T. There shouldn't be any surprises. So it's about making it as stress free as possible. The more stress you are in a weight cut, the harder the weight cut's gonna be. Even if it's the same amount of weight, and one person's stressed and one person's not, the person that's stressed is going to have a fucking horrible time. So that's another big thing with the in-person, is just trying to keep it as cool as you can.
Yeah, and like you said, you're there because you've got the knowledge, you've done all the research. It's basically your job, it's your life, is what you've been doing. And do you find that helps the fighter then, knowing that they have you there? Like, what's one of the biggest things that happen? Like, Joe, just say, come into just say 2 weeks out, they're supposed to be at a certain weight. Do you find sometimes fighters might freak out and go, oh, I'm supposed to be 61 kg, but I'm actually 62. What the fuck is going on here? And they're freaking out in their head. Like, does it always go smoothly that it goes down? But like you said, there could be days where you're stressed from work. It could be, you could have a sickness. Do you think fighters like having that there because they might go do something stupid, like starve themselves for the day? Have you encountered that before?
Yeah, like it happens all the time. You're constantly getting people going, fuck, I'm a bit heavier than I thought I was going to be, and they stress out over the weight. But then like, right, okay, look, are we doing what we need to be doing? Then if you are, you're going to be fine. Like your weight will fluctuate, your weight will stall. I've seen people stall for a week or two, and they're like, oh, they need to cut calories, and I'm like, no, don't do a thing, and then have a big drop. Do you know what I mean? I've seen people stall, and I've said to them, talk them through everything, their training, their stress, everything that's going on, the recovery, the whole lot, and then said to them, right, let's put calories up, and they're like, no, fuck, I'm not doing that, and you're like, you need a refeed, and then they have a refeed, and then their weight drops. So it's about knowing what's going on, assessing the whole situation, and trusting the process as well. You do get people freaking out about it at times, but I think if you're working with somebody long enough to trust you, and they know the crack, like they know it's going to work out. You know what I mean? Being there in person definitely takes a lot of the stress off them as well. They have the whole way through it as well. It takes the stress off them, but in person stuff, it completely takes it off. They have somebody there looking at after everything for them. They know, obviously, it's something that when they're doing it, they have their coaches and all there as well. But I think sometimes coaches as well like to just take a step back, and if you have somebody there dealing with the whole thing, it can run a lot smoother for them as well. So, yeah. John even said that first time I worked with John in person, like he goes, that was the easiest way to cut of his career. And the numbers were the same, but it's just because he knew I was there to watch over it. And then he had somebody that he could sit and have a bit of crack with as well. But it was, you know what I mean, somebody from home that he could sit and talk to and have a bit of banter with it as he was in the bar. So it just made it, he was relaxed and made it a lot easier for him as well. So.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, because you were there in person, it takes that stress away rather than if he feels like something's going wrong, you have to get on the phone, you have to try and get you. Whereas if you're there, what's the story with this? Fine. Like I said, have the crack. And I think having someone more at ease is going to have them less stressed and it will be easier for them. One of the things, and I've seen you talk about before, obviously when you take clients on, you take them on, you like taking them like for not just a fight camp, you like taking them after, because one of the things that seems to happen with fighters is because of the way they may have treated food, a lot of them seem to have complexes with food. As soon as they finish a fight, there's no harm getting a beer and a pizza after. But you find a lot of fighters gorge and go over the top and get themselves into not great shape straight after, rather than kind of maintaining what they were doing.
Yeah, it is an issue that you see a lot. I think it's amplified by how they approach their fight camp. If they diet so hard, train their ass off, they stress so much throughout the fight camp to get that weight down, then the rebound's going to be higher. You know what I mean? It's almost like, I don't know, I'm making this up in the spot because I'm looking at the back and there's a trampoline out the back. It's almost like if you jump from a height onto a trampoline, you're going to bounce higher. Do you know what I mean? So if the drop is bigger, the rebound could potentially be higher. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. So you do see that, and it's not even. Sometimes it's not even the fighter's fault. They can't help it. Their body's primed for that rebound. They've pushed so hard. They're in so much debt, calorie debt to their body, that their body just seeks out food, and they have that rebound. So it can be an adherence issue to an extent, but it can also be how you've approached your fight camp and how you've done things in the lead up to that weight cut will spring you back up. So if you've done it smart and you've gradually brought it down, you haven't cut crazy amounts, you have built better habits, you have things in place then for after, the rebound's not as much. But it is one of the things does happen, and it's so complex and there's so many different things that can impact it. Just even your relationship with food, your eating behaviors, just even things like people will sort of almost self-sabotage in a way throughout fight camp because they think that I've had a conversation with somebody yesterday and they are improving each time, but from where they were initially, it's a massive difference now, but where we want to get them to, it's still a long ways away in terms of like what happens after the fight and after the weight cuts. But that comes from like behavior change, from recognizing triggers, from recognizing different things that are going on, different behaviors that they're doing throughout camp, like even saying to themselves, my weight's fine, even though it's not, and justifying eating more than what they should be eating, and then compensating for that by eating less. So, even throughout camp, there's so many different behaviors, there's so many mindset things, there's so many things after. It is a very, very complex thing, and it is hard. It is hard to improve, the outside. But I think in time, if you can fix what's going on during the camp and have something in place for after, and have them educated and have them seeing why they should concentrate on their diet outside the fight camp, then you can gradually improve it. It can be fixed, and it does make everything then easier going forward. Because if you fix this one, the next camp's going to be a little bit easier than the last one, which means you're not going to rebound maybe as much in the next camp. Then you're going to improve that. So each time you're gradually making that easier and easier and easier, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, it does. And then, like, if you look on Instagram, it's always going to be 90% of good food or food that's not good for you as well, which I think is mad. I see fighters and they're putting up all this lovely stuff on fight week. I say, you're not torturing yourself looking at this is
Yeah.
obviously their algorithm probably knows they're on fight week that they're not
Oh,
eating.
they know,
But
right? Yeah. It's fucking tortured. But you know what? A lot of the people were saying to me, like, I have a conversation with people that are like, before I used to have a list of places that I want to go to for something to eat. And, I couldn't wait for this. But now as time's moved on and they're starting to work on their nutrition, it's not as bad. Right, I'm gonna go and eat for a week or so or a few days or whatever. But the cravings aren't as amplified as what they usually were. So yeah, you can definitely improve on it. But I think I know people like just torture themselves. Like they'll actually save recipes and they'll be just constantly looking at food all the time and just driving themselves insane. It's fucking nuts.
that's that's some sort of a mental trigger though, because everyone, like, even not just fighters, but everyone has some sort of a relationship with food. A lot of people use it for if they're stressed.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not eat because they're stressed, and a lot of people might not overeat. And I think there's a lot of shit foods out there that are sold at mass because they're cheap. A lot of bullshit in it, and I'm actually going to ask you. I don't know if you'd even want to talk to him. Someone who's come to rise over the past year. You man, that guy Eddie Abu. What you make of
Yeah.
guys like that said, like, obviously you want to be eating the right things, but his approach towards it is basically everything's shit except for eggs, it looks like. What do you make of people like that?
He's he's a bit of a gobshite to be fair. Like I get his message, right. His message is eat real foods. Yeah, you can't hate on somebody for promoting eating real foods, but there has to be some form of fucking. You have to draw a line. Like you can't just say all of this stuff is shit. Only eat this. Like that's even in itself going to create a poor relationship with food. Some of that food, yes, okay, it's not whole foods, it's not eggs, it's not whatever, but it's fine. He almost goes to the extreme of what he's going to, and if anybody goes too far one way or too far the other way, it's usually a red flag. You can even get people they're like if it fits your macros type thing, where you can fucking eat whatever the hell you want and be in shape and lose weight and whatever and be healthy. You can eat burgers, McDonald's, all this. Like that's an extreme, and then you have somebody like him that's the other end of the extreme. So that's usually a red flag. Like I think his overall message of eat more healthy or whole foods is good, but he's just too extreme in what he's saying. If somebody wants to eat a bit of bread, that's fine. If somebody wants to eat a protein bar, what's wrong with that? If somebody's having a whey protein shake, you know what I mean? If you look at what he's saying, you can't, as you say, you can't fucking eat anything else but eggs. So that's what are people going to think then? That's just going to create disordered eating or eating disorders then and as well, and people that are already confused. So I think he's just too extreme in his message. Yes, there's merit in what he's saying in terms of eating real food, but and then potentially reducing your processed food intake, but not going to the fucking extreme that this is shit, this is shit, this is shit, this is shit. Eat eggs and feta cheese. You know what I mean? He's fucking mental. He's mental. it's too far, and it's all clickbait shit. You know what I mean? He's just like he's got a really good gimmick that he repeats all over and over again, and it's created this like almost catchphrase, and it's got people hooked on what he's doing. But it's probably hurting more people than it is helping, I think. So yeah. But sure, look, he's got millions of followers. What the fuck do I know?
I don't know how genuine they may or may not be though, but like,
well, that's another thing.
because it went from 500,000 to 1 million in a very short space of time. But like I said, it could be amplified. The first time I heard of him was someone was actually going, "Oh, I'm going to do my shopping," and whenever they picked up something, he would pop up on the screen going, "It's fucking shit," and they throw it away. So,
yeah.
like I agree with what you said with his message. His initial message of the whole food, yeah, is good. But I would have. There's a guy from my area who was he was a personal trainer, and he does more nutrition now, and he does it for gyms, so it's in-house stuff like that. And he said one of the biggest things is a relationship with food. People, you need to get rid of this bad food shit, because when you create that relationship and you have bad food, then you throw everything out the window. Do you know the sort of way? If you have a bad day where you eat shit, on to the next day is what I think.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, you're creating a very, very poor relationship with food there. That's what he's doing. This is bad, that's bad. it's not the way they look at it. You know what I mean? There's not bad food. Yes, there's food that's not as beneficial for your health, and there's more processed and things like that. And there's food that's going to be full of nutrients and more whole-based foods and things like that. They're essentially more beneficial foods. But you're not a bad person, or you haven't fucked your diet if you've had a Cadbury's cream egg. You know what I mean? You've had it, so what? It's not going to kill you straight away. It's not going to kill you at all, maybe. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like you're going to have a slow death because you had a Cadbury's cream egg. Do you know what I mean? It's just going to create such a stupid fucking view by saying foods are good and foods are bad. Like, yeah, I don't know. I have no time for people like that. People that are mad extreme is usually a red flag, that they have an agenda. And you know what, as well, I'm going to go off on a rant here, but he actually fucking has I think a business and a gym that sells a lot of the stuff that he tells you not to eat.
The pre-made meals and stuff like that.
He had a pre-made meals company and all this different stuff, and he's fucking selling shit, like foods that he's telling you other people is shit, but he's selling it. Do you know what I mean? So just fuck this face it all.
So you're saying it's evil, but yet you're profiting off that so-called evil. And I think I sent you a screenshot of when he talked about a certain brand, and the person actually went in, one of the executives or something, said, "It's very strange to hear that, Eddie, because you're one of our biggest customers."
Yeah, who was that? That was that Skinny Co or something like that, wasn't it? One of those things. Yeah. That's right. Actually, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'd love to see, like, you'd love to follow him around and see, does he actually fucking eat what he says he eats? Like, you know what I mean? I could jump on social media now and go, "Oh, I'm eating feta cheese and fucking 3 eggs for breakfast, 2 meals a day." And he's probably fucking popping Pringles and fucking everything else in the background, not letting on and go to suckers. You know what I mean?
See, like I said, it's a good gimmick, but when, like, obviously I seen that it's not if I was ever going to go on a diet or to lose weight, I wouldn't go with someone that extreme. I'd go with someone like yourself, Nathan, the guy even I know in Nubage, that you're able to have a conversation with. But then if
more balanced, yeah.
If you were with him and you see that the likes of the Skinny Food Company commenting saying you're our best customer, or you see him selling that stuff, then are you thinking, I've just been fucking had here. I don't know what he charged. I actually signed up for his free email. So I'm gonna see. I'll get some of the information off that and see what it is.
Yeah. I must do it myself just to see the crack. I might join this group and then start giving them abuse or something. Maybe. You know what? No, I don't know. Don't be watching people like that. So,
no, but anyways, I gotta let you go. I've really enjoyed this chat. Is there anything you want to say before you go? No,
all good. No, there's no point doing like big plugs or anything. Fuck that.
You've enough fighters on at the minute, but obviously obviously you've got yourself, you've got Nathan is a synchronized nutritionist, Nathan. So any amateur fighters that want to get the essential package, shoot Nathan a message, or synchronized nutrition. Any other fighters that may want to get on board with Yannick, I will, obviously you'll probably know him if you already know me. It'll be posted in the clips that I have. So thank you very much for your time, and next time we won't be so long between chats.
Hello, yeah, sweet. No worries.
Perfect. Thank you.